Okay, so previously we had designed a form in HTML using Dreamweaver CC. We can see all of the code. Let me go to full code view. We started our form way up here and ended it right down here with all of these fields and labels in between. Now in the past, a lot of people used to use tables to build forms, and so you would see labels and values not necessarily stacked on top of each other. We're going to do it differently with CSS, and actually in a way that works quite a bit better. Alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to create a new form styles in our style sheet. This is the style sheet we have so far: link styles, nav styles, image styles, main styles, aside styles, footer, table. Now let's go ahead and copy the table styles, and we'll put this right above our custom styles. Alright. So the first thing we're going to want to do is create a style for all of our labels. Alright, so by having this in our, by the way, I got to change this to form styles. There we go. By having this in our CSS file, this is the default of what all our forms will take on. And you can always do a local style to override it, or create a separate form style in your CSS style sheet. The first thing we're going to do is create a text alignment, and all of these things can be played with. You don't have to do text align left, but I'm going to go ahead with that. I'm also going to go with a width of 25%, and we're going to float this to the left. And so you should be able to see what this is going to do, and we're going to create some padding to the right to push it away from the rest of the form in case it gets close. Alright, so everything's going to be left with aligned, and save that. So let's go ahead and see what this looks like in our web page. And of course everything's floating left, but we don't have things floating right yet. So let's go ahead and take care of that next. Mainly with a class called, I guess we could call it text box. Mostly it's going to be applied to things that have a box type entry. This should work. We'll just call it text box. If I want to change it later, we can, but I think this is going to work. On this one, we're going to go 70%. So that should give us about a 5% gap in between the form elements left and right. But we're going to go ahead and create some padding all the way around just in case. And because this could be kind of funky, I'm going to go ahead and add the box sizing. This may not be necessary, but since we're going to add padding to those content areas, that's going to make those boxes be a little bit bigger than what they were. And we got box sizing. That needs to be border box and box sizing. I guess I do this anytime I'm adding padding to any kind of element. In case there's a content box as the default, I want to override that. And then let's go ahead and see what this looks like. So I've saved that, and now I've got all of the elements out here. Alright, it doesn't look too bad. You can see that we've got things nicely filled out in between. Let's see, I did width of 70%. Now I'm wondering, now that one should have done something a little different. Hold on a sec. Oh, we have to apply the class. So we have a class here called textbox. Let's go back to our source code. And for every one of these boxes, I'm going to add that class. Now I could do it in the code view for sure. But if I want to come to, let me come back down to design view. If I click on this box, you can see that in the properties window that I can choose the class. So I'm going to choose text box, and that's going to make the padding, it's going to make it 70% wide. And there's text box again. I'm not going to worry about the drop list, but I do want the text area. And we call that one text box. Alright, and let's go look at live view again. Yeah, I think that looks pretty good. Let's see, now these, if you want it, now we could always go in and change, what's the size of all these text entry items. I mean, your browser is going to have a default. So let me go ahead and save that again. And we'll reapply it. Each browser is going to have a default size for these things. In this case, check this box if you are human. Now here's one where do I really want this as a label over to the left? I may want to run it here instead. So let's go ahead and change that. And we'll go back to our source code. And I think instead of doing a label, we can, now in this case it wanted to put my label on top. So let's move that. Let's see if it'll move. Put the label after it. Not sure what this is going to do. This may or may not work. Yeah, it still wants to float it left, so it doesn't matter where it is in the this one may not need a label, so what we could do here is just have this go after the form like that, and we'll hit save. Let's take a look and see what that looks like. This puts the checkbox kind of far over. So I maybe want to play around with that a little bit just to see if there's a way I could get that to work a little bit better. Because right now I'd prefer that this be over. So let's see if there's something better that we can do. Okay, I think I got a different idea. Let's go ahead and put this label back in. And so I apologize, I should have and this would be a label for the checkbox. So I have to refresh this. Label for, and where's my checkbox? Oh, it's for my anti-spam. And then in here, let's give it a label. So let's go, are you human? Let's ask a question here. And we'll just have a checkbox with the words, why, yes, I am. Alright, Let's try this. This might work a little bit better. And oops, that got dropped down below. Let's see here. Checkbox. And it should be, I think I'm going to have to take out this class. So don't put the class in on the input type. That might be what's pushing things to the side. Alright, so that looks a little better. So keeping a label here, even though I have a checkbox with the answer right after it. And you could do checkboxes where you have multiple options and you could write an answer. So you could say, what are you interested in? And then have checkboxes with answers after them. The only thing is you have to give each checkbox a unique ID and name so that it makes sense as that gets submitted. My submit form is sticking over here a little bit. Let's go ahead and move that over. Come back here to Styles. And it is possible to style just the submit button. But let's give it a class of submit. And we'll do margin left. This is just to push it away from the side. I'll do 27%. That should be close to where I want it. There are other ways to style this, but this is a simple one for now. Make sure you got your semicolon. Need to go back to our source code and input submit. This is where we're going to need to add our class to our submit button. And we can put it in any one of these tags. I'll go ahead and put it as one of the first ones. And there's submit. And we hit save. And that should push my submit button over a little bit. And that's pretty close. I'm not going to get it exactly. I mean, I could put a label here and say submit, and then this would then be lined up over here. But for right now, this looks pretty good. So now if somebody, this is my name, and this is my email. You can fill all these things in and then send a message. I'm not sure what happens on the submit. Well, let's try something. Test. I think I have to have a real email address in here. So we'll do Chris. This is kind of a fake email address. chris@chris.com. Yeah, it didn't work. So we would have to run a script to get that contact form to actually work. Alright, but here's the submit, the select list, and we got things fairly well styled. If you wanted to change what we have in here, we could work with styling. You can play around with styling to stylize the background color of the fields. You can change the font sizes, even the font type. For now, it's going to use a default font type, and it has each browser is going to have their default styles in here that you have to override. I'm not going to go into all of them. I think you get the idea of how it works, but that's just a real basic email form that we built in HTML, and then we came back into HTML and stylized it. Alright, there we go.